Okay, when I was in like 9th grade, I was super boy crazy. I mean, like, I don't even think it was because it had to do with boys, or like I just like was not receiving enough attention at home. But I wanted a boyfriend. I wanted a boyfriend, and I was gonna get a boyfriend. And I wasn't that picky because I thought having a boyfriend was just like an experience you needed to have, so like anybody would do, like as awful as that is. Even like boys I didn't really like, because it wasn't about what they looked like or how annoying they were. It was about, you know, could they be a good boyfriend like Disney Channel said? And I had a roster essentially of guys because, you know, you need to be prepared. Oh my god, that looks crazy. I had online boyfriends on Kik. I had boyfriends on Facebook. I had boyfriends on Habu Hotel. Like, I had them. And I even had a roster at school. But the issue is my school roster wasn't, whoa, it's coming out everywhere. It wasn't as what you think. It wasn't as good as you would think it was. Like, my online boyfriends were way cuter than the boys, like, at school. Because, you know, I wasn't trying to, like, spit up what I looked like. So, I could be like, yeah, I'm, like, so popular at school. And, like, only the cool popular boys date me. I'm saying I had to stay in my league. I had to stay in my league. And that I did. And there was this one boy that I would talk to, and his name was Caleb. And we did theater together. Oh, that's so thick. And he was emo, but like in a poser way. I'm going to be honest. Like, he didn't have the pizzazz that the other emo boys at my school had. But since I was like a theater orchestra, like, loser queen, you know, I could not attract like the real emo boys, so I had to settle for my off-brand guy. And in 9th grade, oh my god, in 9th grade, he wanted to ask me out. He was a romantic. He was a romantic. So how did he want to ask me out? He wanted to sing to me. He wanted to sing to me. And what sucked is like, I'm sorry if you're watching this, Caleb, you are not a good singer. He asked my friend, he straight up was like, what is her favorite song? And my favorite song, laugh at me, I don't care, at the time was Will You Marry Me by Bruno Mars. So I'm going to 9th grade geometry, right? Who did I see turning the corner? Caleb. And Caleb looks at me, he's like, I have something to ask you. He looks me in the eye and he just starts singing like Bruno Mars, Will You Marry Me? It was the most mortifying thing in my entire life because it was in between classes.
Story time about how my best friend's dad tried to assault me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I'm now 24, but 10 years ago, a new girl moved into our town. Her and I quickly became best friends in school. She would always come over to my house and have dinner with me and my parents. My parents really grew to love her because she was so polite and really cared about me. The only thing was that she never wanted me to go over to her house. At first I thought it might be because she was embarrassed of her house or something. And eventually I asked her and she told me that her dad was abusive towards her mom. And that was the reason why she didn't want me to come over. I felt terrible that she had to live like that, so I expressed to my mom that I was really concerned about her. So my mom actually asked my best friend if she wanted to come live with us for a little bit. Let's call my best friend Sarah. Sarah said no because she wanted to be with her mom. But my mom really wanted to help Sarah and her mom. My mom was in an abusive relationship herself when she was younger, so she understood what Sarah and her mom were going through. My mom decided to invite Sarah's mom over for dinner. That's when my mom asked her about their living situation, and Sarah's mom confessed that it was pretty bad. My mom suggested that she should try to get a divorce, and a few weeks later, she filed for divorce. We were all so happy because this meant things would get better for Sarah and her mom. And things did get better. Her dad moved out to his own apartment, and a few weeks later, he had a new girlfriend. I was able to stay over at Sarah's house, and it was really fun. One of the times that I was with Sarah at her house, her dad showed up. But he started making me feel really uncomfortable. He told Sarah that I was the prettiest friend she'd ever had. I could see him staring at me. After he left, Sarah apologized. I went home and tried not to think about it. A few days later, I was walking home when Sarah's dad pulled up next to me. One day that I was at Sarah's house, I decided to walk home instead of calling my mom to pick me up. As I was walking home, Sarah's dad pulls up next to me. At this point, I still hadn't forgotten what he had said about me, and I still felt really uncomfortable. He asked me if I needed a ride, and I politely said no. Then he started to laugh and asked me if I was scared of him. Of course I said no, but the truth is that I was. And he said, well then get in the car if you're not scared of me. And I did. As we got closer to my house, he put his hand on my lap. He asked me if I had a boyfriend and I pushed his hand away. Then he asked me why I was being so rude. I told him that he made me feel uncomfortable, that I just wanted to get out of the car and walk the rest of the way home. He said no because it would be dangerous for me to be by myself walking at night. He put his hand back on my lap and told me that I was really sturdy. That's when he grabbed my hand and tried to put it on his lap. Of course, I pulled my hand away really quick. Then he pulled over really fast and tried to kiss me. I was so beyond disgusted. I just started yelling, and this really took him by surprise because he must have thought that I was just gonna let him. While I was yelling at the top of my lungs, I managed to unlock the car and open the door. I basically threw myself on the ground and he started yelling at me, telling me to shut up. He tried to pull me back into the car, but at this point I was laying on the ground, so he had to pick up dead weight. He grabbed my foot and started pulling me back towards the car, but I started kicking him. He told me that I was overreacting and that he was just trying to be friendly. Luckily, a few of the neighbors heard me screaming because I was right in front of their house. They came outside and ran towards me because they saw me struggling with him. That's when the woman said that she was going to call the cops. He tried to tell the lady that I was overreacting and that he had only leaned over to put the seatbelt on, but I took it the wrong way. I told her that he tried to kiss me and she started calling the cops. That's when he drove away. I literally could not believe what had just happened. Finally, the cops arrived and so did my mom. I told them everything that happened, and I even told him that he had made a comment about me in Sarah's house a few days before that. They quickly started looking for his car and found him at a parking lot. They arrested him and he spent 2 nights in jail. His girlfriend then went to bail him out. She told the cops that he was with her and that I was just lying and that I made everything up. She even went as far as to tell the police that I had been hitting on him and that she had been a witness to it. She would even call my house at 2 in the morning and hang up. I even saw her car near my house and by my school, which means she was following me. I called the police to tell them that his girlfriend was following me. That's when the cops said that I could probably get a restraining order against him and his girlfriend. Sarah and her mom came over to our house after they heard what happened. Of course, they felt really bad, but they weren't surprised. Sarah told me that that's why she never wanted me to come over because her dad had commented things about her friends before. Worst of all is that they couldn't keep him in jail for what he did to me, but a few months later he was finally put into prison because of something else he did. Apparently he had tried to steal a car or something. Remember the crazy girlfriend I told you Sarah's dad had? She kept following me for a long time. She would even show up to my school asking me if I wanted a ride home. Eventually I was able to get a restraining order against her, but she was really scary. A few years ago she tried to follow me on Instagram. I had to block and report her. I mean, what kind of woman would fight for a man like that? The good news is Sarah and I are still good friends to this day. We even went to college together and now have steady boyfriends. Even Sarah's mom remarried and she's really happy with her husband. I look back at what happened as a learning experience, but to be honest, if he ever gets out of prison, I'm scared. Shout out to my follower Remy for always supporting me and watching my lives. If you want a shout out, watch my lives to get picked. Bye.
Am I the asshole for waxing my 5-year-old daughter's unibrow? So my 5-year-old has a pretty thick dark unibrow that is very noticeable. Because of COVID, her preschool was online, therefore she was never bullied for having it. However, this past summer, her cousins came over to visit and many of them teased her for her unibrow. They'd call her countless names, and at just 5 years old, my daughter already thinks she is ugly. It breaks my heart because nobody, let alone a 5-year-old, should think they are ugly. I reassure my daughter she's beautiful and not to listen to her cousins, but my daughter still believes she is ugly. In a week, she is starting kindergarten, and I really do not want the bullying to get worse there. So yesterday, I took it in my hands to wax her unibrow. I didn't shape them or anything, just waxed the middle off to get rid of her unibrow. My daughter was elated, looking in the mirror and calling herself so pretty. It warmed my heart to see her so confident in herself, but I made sure to remind her she was beautiful both ways. When my husband came home, my daughter was so excited to show him her eyebrows. In front of her, he called her beautiful, but after she left, we had a huge fight. He said it was horrible of me to be subjecting my 5-year-old daughter to beauty standards. And at such a young age, I'm pushing it on her instead of telling her she is beautiful the way she is. And no 5-year-old should be waxing their eyebrows, and I'm pushing the mentality that she's only beautiful without her unibrow. And that my daughter is too young to know what she even wants, and she should have been able to make her decision to wax it off when she is old enough. I truly understand all the points he has made. However, my daughter has told me she wants to get rid of her unibrow, and I didn't want her to grow up with the bullying and teasing and blame me because I could have prevented it. So, am I the asshole for waxing her unibrow?
Okay, I promise you have not heard a crazier dating story than the one I'm about to tell you. So, tune in for the whole thing. Here we go. So, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the word derfing. It's kind of like a Utah slang, but it means dry humping. So, I had no idea what this meant. I got it mixed up with a different word. So I texted this guy that I kind of had a thing with, He lived at my apartment complex in college. So I was like, hey, it's like 12 o'clock at night, like I'm bored, let's go derfing. He was way in. He was way in. He was like, yeah, let's go. So I was like, okay, let's go to the church parking lot. No better place. We start walking to my car so I can drive us to the church parking lot, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, all right, I'm kind of nervous, like I've never done this before. He's like, okay, yeah, it's no big deal, like I do this all the time. And I was like, okay, cool, like yeah, awesome. I even tell him, I say, I tell him, I looked up YouTube videos of people doing this beforehand so that I can like know what to do. And he goes, you looked up YouTube videos? And I was like, yeah, of course, like I don't want to get hurt, like I don't want to lose control, you know, like I want to. So I just keep emphasizing, there we go, that I was just scared and I didn't want to lose control. So here we go, this is where it gets so good. Remember, I didn't know derfing was anything to do with kissing, anything like that at all. So he starts like turning on some like music, trying to kiss me, and I'm like, okay, like what the heck. So I kind of just like cut it off and I stopped kissing him, and I was like, all right, like time to derf. And he was like, wow, like I did not picture you to be so bold, Cami, like, and you can't really, you know, force derfing. I was like, what the heck, what do you mean? So then I start the car and I start drifting. And drifting is very different from derfing. So I thought derfing meant drifting, which means you go in like a big pile of snow and you just do circles in your car and you drift like with your car. So this whole time, this guy thinks I'm talking about like making out, dry humping, and all I wanted to do was drift in my car. I can't get him straight anymore. So we're drifting, I'm having a good time, like I am thriving. And he looks over at me and he's like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm derfing. And I could see in his eye the aha moment when he realized that this whole time I thought derfing meant drifting. I'm an idiot.
I am going to try to tell this story without breaking into hysterical laughter. Today I was FaceTiming with my boyfriend and I had to run outside really quick to let my dog pee. While I was out there, my boyfriend said, let me see your street because I've never seen the street you live on before because we're a long distance. We've met, but we're long distance. So I decided this is a good time to take him on a tour of my street. And I got about a whole ass block down the street, and that is when he said, Jess, are you just wearing a negligee outside? And that's when I realized I was only wearing a negligee, a light pink negligee. But wait, it gets worse. So then I started laughing because I realized I was out in public around a shit ton of people wearing nothing but a lacy pink negligee. It should also be noted that I had done 90s makeup on myself because I did some videos and I was literally in the middle of taking off my 90s makeup when my dog asked to go urinate outside. And so I had just one eyebrow and the other one was still in makeup and covered up with concealer, as well as blue eyeshadow, heavy black eyeliner, and just lip liner. So that's what I was outside with, in a pink negligee. And I turned very quickly to go back to my house when I realized I forgot I was just wearing a pink negligee. And then my boyfriend started to make me laugh. And when I laugh sometimes too hard, I pee a little. And so I said, stop making me laugh because I'm gonna pee. And then I started to pee a little. So then I started running towards my house because I didn't want to pee myself. But then he made me laugh more. So I was running and laughing and I started peeing more. So then I started screaming because pee was coming down my leg. But every time I screamed, more pee came out. So I ducked behind a bush because I couldn't stop the pee from coming. And that's when I realized I was in the police department parking lot that is next door to my house, laughing and peeing in a pink negligee with one eyebrow. And also, you guys should know one more thing. This is my phone case.